All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Friday Night Live, which is sponsored by Craig Faile, owner of Blackbridge Financial. Make sure you check out Blackbridge Financial for all your money needs. They got some great tools to help you manage your money the right way. All right, third round of the playoffs. Wow, it's a lot going on. As everybody gets on and joins joins the show. Um, Tonight we were at Jam Robinson for the second week in a row as they hosted Dudley. This was a third round rematch. Um, Last year, Dudley won the game up at Dudley. This time, obviously, it's at Jam Robinson. So a little change of venue. On a cold night, it was a packed crowd. I mean, the stands were packed on both sides. There were people that brought chairs to sit on the hill on the home side. So that was really cool to see everybody coming out to support both of these teams. This one was really interesting. So starting out the game, Dudley got the ball first, and their offense really went in the reverse. I mean, they had a couple penalties, they had a couple of negative plays, and it got to be around fourth down and God almighty, like 30 something. And they go to punt, and the punt gets blocked. So Jay Robinson recovers, gets the ball on around the Dudley, I would say 15-yard line, and they managed to navigate down into the end zone. Quarterback John Bissonette scored on about a 5-yard touchdown run that gave J.M. Robinson a 7-0 lead early in the game. And from that point, it was a lot of defense. And coming into the game, we talked about Dudley putting up a lot of impressive offensive numbers, but that just didn't happen in the first half. Jam Robinson's defense was really fast to the football. Dudley couldn't run it. They tried to throw it and they couldn't get anything going with any, consistent success to put a drive together. And the biggest, thought I have about that was Jam Robinson's defensive line, won the battle at the line of scrimmage. And they Dudley's O line couldn't get push. Um and then their quarterback, they played two quarterbacks. The quarterbacks couldn't really get settled. Um, Dudley tried to do a lot of different things, and then just nothing was clicking. But on the other side of it, after that first touchdown, Jam Robinson didn't do much either. So it was just a lot of, you know, three and outs or get one first down, and then you go three and out. So just punting and trying to play field position, that kind of thing. And that was the rest of the first half. So Robinson led 7-0 at the half. Come out third quarter, and it was about the same for a little while. And then Robinson was able to get a little drive going, and they set up for a field goal. And I have to go back and look at my clip, but I think it was a bad snap that messed up the field goal attempt. And they ended up not getting points on that drive. I think that was a big point in the game. I think if Robinson went up 10-0, then I think, Dudley might have felt differently about being down two scores versus only being down one score. But, with it only being one score, you always felt like, they were in the game and all they had to do was get one, big play to get over the hump. And so toward the end of the third quarter, Dudley started to put together a little bit of a drive. And then the first play of the fourth quarter, they took a shot and they got a 32-yard touchdown pass. It was a great catch. I had to go back to my video to see who the young man was, but it was a great catch. Just a one-on-one deep ball down the sideline. That tied the game up at 7. And then instantly, soon as Dudley got that touchdown, you saw the momentum swing. Like you could feel it in the stadium. Their fans who really traveled well, like I said, started getting behind the team. The players on the field, defense came out jacked up. They immediately got Robinson off the field. after their offense scored that touchdown. So 7-7, Dudley with a lot of momentum. They carried that on. They got another touchdown. I got that highlight up on my Twitter. Number one, I have to check the roster once again to find the name, but he made a great catch on a kind of like a quick slot fade route in the end zone that gave Dudley a 14-7 lead. But then Robinson was able to get a drive going. And then Robinson got all the way down to around the 5-yard line. And it was 4th down, 4th and goal. And, they tried to run a pass and almost got intercepted. But Dudley's defense kept them out of the end zone when they were up 14-7. And this was maybe about 2.5 minutes left in the 4th quarter. So at that point, Dudley's offense took over. They had a pre-snap penalty, which, I'll talk about in a second. So they were on their own 2-yard line, and I was just out, and Robinson had all 3 of their timeouts. So I was, saying, if they can just hold them and use their timeouts, they'll get the ball back with a chance to drive with maybe a minute and a half left in the game. So they stopped them on the first 2 plays of that drive, used 2 of their timeouts, and it got to be 3rd and 5. And, I told Brandon on the sideline, I said, this is 3rd in the season for Robinson right here. They got to make this stop, because if they don't, then that's it. Dudley came out and ran a sweep with one of their receivers, number 5. And he took it 90 yards for the distance. And the collective air on the Robinson side of the stadium went out. I mean, that was a devastating blow. And that's where Dudley sealed the game right there. So they won it 20-7. They're going to move on to the next round and play West Charlotte, a matchup that a lot of people have been wanting to see for a long time. But we'll talk about that in depth on our next preview show. All right, so that's where we were tonight. And I do want to say thank you to the Robinson fans and a couple of the Robinson players. Said some really nice things tonight. And, we always appreciate the support. We appreciate the love. Going there the last 2 weeks has been, really nice. Really nice. Good people over there. All right. We got 10 comments in the bucket, so let's see what y'all want to talk about. Let's see here. At the top, first of all, James Law is laughing, which I'm assuming that's directed toward the Huff Mallard Creek game, because I see the next comments here. So James goes on to say, Huff first half was rocky, but second half was nearly a different offensive team. Hashtag Huff States. All right. Well, yeah, I saw the score at halftime was 13-0, which, most teams would take, but I understand what you're saying. But yeah, I think I got the final score right here. 34-0. Yeah. So, it was about like the first game. I mean, the first game, Huff won 33-0 over Mallard Creek. So, sounds like basically a carbon copy right there. But Jonathan Mitchell, good evening, sir. Good to see you. How about that Huff defense? Yeah. I mean, yeah. At this point, I don't know what else you can say. Huff. You know why I like Huff? Huff. I had to say it when I coach. Huff talks with their pads, and that's the best way to be. As a football team, where all you can do is just either point at the film or point at the scoreboard, and that's it. They're physical, they're fast, and they play with an edge. Now, speaking of Huff, there's a familiar opponent waiting for them in the next round that they wanted to see, and that's Grimsley. They got to go up to Grimsley next week, but that is one that they've wanted, ever since, last season ended. And, I am absolutely positive they will be ready. Now, speaking of Grimsley, they beat Charlotte Catholic 42-14 tonight. So, they're playing well. They're a good team. Well, they're an excellent team. They beat Roseville earlier this year. So they did go out and, play somebody in the non-conference. But once again, we'll talk more about that game on our preview show. But that's going to be a game that everybody wants to see. And James Law finishing up on Huff. Huff defense, nothing new, lights out. Yeah. All right. Absolutely. Coach Peavy from Corbian checking in. Corbian goes on the road and defeats Eastern Randolph, who was undefeated this season, 27-14, and they're going to move on to play Mount Airy. They're going up to Mount Airy, the number 1 seed, next week in the 4th round of playoffs. So congrats to Corbian and going on the road and getting that victory. We know a little bit about Mount Airy because we've seen them a couple times over the years in the 1A West brackets. Speaking of Mount Airy, they defeated Starmount 31-23 tonight. So that's going to be a fun one. We'll talk about it on the preview show, but Coach, let me know who stood out for Corbian so we can give them some love. Dakota McCann checking in. Appreciate you watching as always. Scroll down here. See, J-Man played our heart out. I left it all out there. Feel bad for our seniors, but it's still back to work. Let's go blue. And East Forsyth defeated Mooresville 35-30. They didn't take the lead till the 4th quarter. Man. J-Man, I'm proud of you, man. I saw you had a long touchdown run tonight. And you played a big role in that game. So Mooresville had an excellent season. They got past the 2nd round, which was, something that was been a thing for them for a while. Obviously, I think they made the right hire. Coach Zach Mayo, his first season. It's a hell of a first season, man. Get your 3rd round of playoffs. And they have some really good players that are graduating out of that program. But they got some really good players coming back. So the future is still bright for the Blue Devils. And they got guys like J-Man, to step into a senior role and take the leadership of that team going forward. And yeah, ain't gonna be the last you heard of Mooresville, that's for sure. Let's see here. Tamario Baldwin. Thank you, Tamario. I had a feeling it was those two because I wrote on Prep Red Zone, but Dudley has 4 good senior receivers, and I didn't want to get the names mixed up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back on Twitter after the show and tag those guys in those little clips I got on the sideline because, those were some really big plays that helped flip that game. And I know Mr. Cordell, number 5, is committed to Wake Forest. And remind me where Nas is committed to because, those two are some game-breaking plays right there. And I really love, Cordell's versatility. He ran that from the running back spot. He technically, is listed as a receiver, but, that kind of multi-threat, thing is a big deal now, especially high school and college football. So good stuff. Okay, Liberty. All right, awesome. Thank you. Y'all are on it. All right, thank you. The smartest high school football fans watch this show. There you go. All right, Karen Belt checking in says she is watching Georgia versus Georgia Tech in 7th overtime and us. Really? Wow. I don't know how we can compete with 7 overtimes, but I appreciate it. Thanks, Karen. All right, Elisha Wilson checking in. Dub C, 58-0 over number 1 Irwin. Well, first of all, we need to talk about Irwin being number 1 seed. I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, a lot of people were really questioning the RPI when that came out. And this is the big reason why. West Charlotte, is doing what they, should be doing, is taking care of, the the teams that they have a big advantage on. And I apologize for the camera. I don't know why it just jumped like that, but that's a dominant victory, plain and simple. Offensively, I know Coach Griner is probably really happy with what his offense has been doing so far in the playoffs, because they have really put up some points in their 3 games so far. That being said, I mentioned it earlier. They are going to play Dudley. This game will be at Dudley next week, and I'm gonna tell you right now, the 3 teams that they face, if you combine those 3 teams, I don't think you're gonna get anything close to what they're gonna see from Dudley. I will say this about Dudley's defense. They are a really impressive defense. There's a reason why they only had given up 15 points all season long until tonight. Those guys are really solid. And I mean, solid may not even be the right word, but they're really good at all 3 levels. Their defensive line is the engine. They got 2 big D tackles. They play a 4-man front. They stuff the running game. They push the pocket in the passing game. And when they push the pocket inside, they funnel it out to 2 very good defensive ends who can come off the edge and pass rush very well. And then their speed at the second level at the linebacker spot is really impressive. And then their DBs are big and fast. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge to go up against those guys. And, we were talking on the sideline, and I was just saying, I know Hickory had success against them last year, but they are a high-level passing offense that can, pick, defenses apart. And just looking at Dudley, you're going to have to get the ball out fast, and you're going to have to be precise in how you attack, especially in the air. Running the ball is going to be really tough against them, because you might want to try to – Robinson had some success on zone reads, but even then, the speed of the second level just kind of snuffed those out for, maybe 3 or 4 yard gains. You got to be patient in the run game and use it, to stay on balance, because you try to go one way or the other against them, they're gonna eat you alive. So we'll talk more about that in the preview. But I'm just saying that to say West Charlotte Dudley is gonna be a heck of a game that a lot of people have been wanting, and it's here now at Dudley next week. All right, y'all. So Georgia Tech's now in the 8th overtime. Oh, okay, good gracious. Well, that's great. Let's go through some other scores that are finals that we have. I've seen most of these scores. Now I'll say the score, and we'll talk about who the next matchup is going to be. So East Forsyth defeating Mooresville 35-30. That's going to set up a matchup with number 2 seed Weddington, who defeated Northern Guilford tonight 55-0. A lot of people kind of saw that coming with Northern Guilford's quarterback out for the whole season. We're talking about West Charlotte Irwin that set him the matchup with Dudley. In a wild game, Hickory defeated Crest 63-48. And I remember Brandon on the sideline telling me Crest was up 48-35. So Hickory scored 28 unanswered points to come back and win that game. Incredible performance by Hickory. That's going to set up a matchup. Oh, I need to switch my brackets. So give me 1 second. I'll let you know. Oh, Hickory's going to play North Lincoln next. That's a 3A matchup. They're in the same conference. They've played before this year. So, a lot of people are going to pick Hickory in that one when you start looking at it at first glance. So North Lincoln defeated Ashbrook 20-10 tonight, which is why they're going to move on and play at Hickory next week in the 4th round. Shelby defeated Community School of Davidson 35-7. They're going to move on, and they're going to play Monroe in the next round, which is going to be a heck of a football game. Monroe defeating West Stokes at home tonight 48-21. Monroe will go on the road to Shelby next week in a great 4th round matchup right there. We talked about Huff. We talked about Grimsley. Forest Hills defeating Salisbury 38-31. Big win for Forest Hills. We'll move on to the fourth round for the second year in a row. Forest Hills will play. Give me a second. Switch over to the 2A bracket. Brevard, who defeated East Rutherford, who knocked off Reedsville 2 weeks ago. Brevard will host Forest Hills next week. Brevard defeating East Rutherford 42-6. Big win for Brevard. So we'll definitely have to dig into Brevard on the preview show next week. All right. Let's see here. Roseville for noting on the East bracket. Roseville defeating Richmond 44-6. Big win for them. A note on South Point and Rock Hill. They defeated Daniel 49-35. Bobby Collins moving on to the fourth round. Here's running back Mason Hicks, 34 carries for 465 yards and 7 touchdowns. Wow. They are saying that's a South Carolina state record. I don't know if it's for a game or just for the playoffs, but Mason Hicks, shout out to you, man. Congratulations. What a game. Awesome stuff, man. All right. So let's go through the brackets real quick. I'm on the 2A bracket. So next week we're gonna have Forest Hills at Brevard, a 9-13 matchup, seed-wise. On the other side in the West, we got the Monroe-Shelby matchup. Monroe, a 3 seed, going to Shelby, a 2 seed. We'll go to 1A, knock that out. We got Mount Airy, the 1 seed, hosting Corbion, the 5 seed. On the other side, we got Murphy, the 3 seed, going on the road to play Mountain Heritage, the 2 seed. I'm sure those two know each other very well. In the 3A West, we've got, as I said, West Charlotte going on the road to take on Dudley, the 8 seed, going on the road to the 5 seed. And then on the other side is Hickory, the 3 seed, hosting North Lincoln, the 10 seed. And then finally on the 4A West, we have Huff and Grimsley. Huff going to Grimsley, the 5 seed going to the 1 seed. Then on the other side, we've got East Forsyth, the 3 seed, going to Weddington, the 2 seed. So interesting matchups. On the preview show, we'll talk about it more. There's less people on because there's less people playing. That being said, thanks for watching Friday Night Live. We're sponsored by Craig Faile, owner of Blackbridge Financial. For all your financial needs, make sure you check them out. They got some great tools to help you with your money. Have a good weekend, everybody.